Raise your hands if I'm too loud. Okay, my name is Alex. I'll be your driver and tour guide for the next 25 to 30 minutes here on the Africa Tram Safari. If you're seated next to a door, give it a shake, make sure it's closed. The doors are closed but not locked, so nobody sit on top of the doors or lean on the doors or anything like that. You want to make sure they stay shut for the whole tour. Up above you on the ceiling is a yellow safety strip that's for you to use in case there's a medical emergency. If you're in the front car and there's no yellow strip, you can always wave to me in the mirror or tap on the window to get my attention for an emergency. That's going to be a medical emergency only, though. Please don't do that if you drop your hat or something. Just hold on to that thought till after the tour. All right, looking out on the left-hand side, we've got some Thompson's gazelles coming into view here. Check them out.
No, I'm fine.
They got that black stripe right down the middle. That stripe right in the middle of that gazelle is going to be there to make them look a little bit bigger. Because a gazelle's number one predator is going to be a cheetah. Cheetah's kind of a small, lightweight cat. They prefer to hunt small, light animals. So if you're small like the gazelle, it's in your best interest to try to look as big as you can. They use that horizontal stripe to make themselves look a little wider, a little thicker, a little bit too big for a cheetah to eat, hoping to fool those cats into going after someone else. Now we also have some African crowned cranes on the left-hand side, those black and white birds with the little golden crown of feathers on their head. Some of them spreading their wings there. Now that feathered little crown on those cranes is going to be great for helping them attract a mate. They spread their wings, they stomp their feet, they shake their head back and forth, calling attention to those bright colors, trying to show off what a good potential partner they would be, showing off how healthy they are. Over on the right-hand side, we've got some flamingos passing by right here. They're a little bit, these are the greater flamingos. They're a little bit lighter in color than some of those Caribbean flamingos you might have seen back by the park entrance. The greater flamingo comes from a salt lake, kind of a salt marsh environment. And with that high salt content, that means lots of reflected sunlight, lots of glares, lots of white colors. So those birds are going to be a little whiter and lighter in color themselves, that pale pink, to help them reflect a little bit of sunlight so they can blend in. Going to be talking a little bit about animal appearances on the tour today, how the way these animals look can help them survive in their environment. So we'll talk about stripes and spots and feathers and fur and antlers and horns and all kinds of different stuff. It's going to help them. Sometimes they camouflage and blend in. Sometimes they may want to stand out. They want to look bigger or smaller. They want to attract a mate or communicate with each other or get a predator to leave them alone. All kinds of different stuff they want to accomplish by changing the way they look or by looking a certain way. All right, up on the right-hand side, we have the Rhino Rescue Center, home to a crash of southern white rhinos. I see at least one rhino coming up here. Oh, two. There are at least two. Altogether, there are 10 who live here. I'm not sure how many of them are going to be out right now, but I see two of them. You might notice little bits of water, little bits of mud on these rhinos. Rhinos love a good mud bath. They're kind of like people in that they don't have a lot of body hair. They are mammals, so they do have a little bit of hair. If you were to get really, really close to a rhinoceros, it might look a little bit like the back of your own hand, only a much grayer and more wrinkly. They have little bits of hair here and there, just like your own hand or arm might have, but not enough to cover their skin, not enough to block out the sun. So they roll in the mud, they get it caked all over their body, and it kind of acts like a natural protection from those UV rays from that sunlight. Helps keep the sun damage off of their skin, helps them stay cool and comfortable when it's hot outside. It also helps, it's not that hot out today, but it is something they would do. It's also something that's going to kind of help keep those parasites and insects and pests away from them as well, helping them stay a little healthier and a little bit more comfortable. Now, these southern white rhinos living here at the park have actually got a pretty important job to do. Even though their species is doing okay, the southern white rhino has got a close relative back in Africa called the northern white rhino. And the northern white rhino is a critically endangered species. There are, in fact, only 2 of them left on the whole planet. So all of planet Earth, 2 northern white rhinos. They are both female, a mother and daughter, and they live on a wildlife preserve over in Africa, over in Kenya. So just those 2. Some of you guys might have noticed the problem with that population. 2 individuals, both the same sex, both close relatives of each other. That species can't reproduce anymore. No more baby northern white rhinos, at least not the traditional way. So we do a lot of research into rhino reproduction, rhino biology, studying assisted reproduction here at the safari park. Things like artificial insemination, in vitro fertilization, different stuff that we might one day be able to use to help save those rhinos from the brink of extinction. Looking a little further out beyond that pond, we've got our South African savanna stretching out before us here. Looks like you can see a few of those antelope off in the distance there. Looks like we might have a antelope heavy beginning of our tour and see at least 3 or 4 different kinds coming up here. So we also got a chance here to check out the landscape, think about what kinds of different appearances are going to come in handy for the animals living in a place that looks like this. Lots of grass, lots of trees, and lots of wide open spaces is going to be what you see on the African savanna. Couple of vultures there on the right hand side, a Cape vulture spreading those wings. We have been asked not to stop in this spot here. I think we have a new bird getting acclimated, but the Cape vulture there with the light brown wings, the lapid-faced vulture with the dark brown, those vulture species, very, very important for their ecosystem. They do sometimes get a bit of a bad reputation for their appearance. People don't like the hunched shoulders or the bald necks, but they're very, very important animals. They clean up all the waste, all the dead things, keeping those diseases down, keeping that habitat safer. Now, staying over on that right-hand side, we have some gazelles. These are the Samarang gazelles. They have light brown fur on top. That's good for helping them blend in when they lay down. Helps them hide with the dry grass, with the dirt, with the sand, helping to vanish and stay hidden from those cheetahs. Looking over on the left-hand side, first up we have some eland, those big, big, heavy, light brown antelopes sitting on the grass over there. A few of them standing up. If you look closely, you'll see they have those little black marks on their legs. It looks like they're wearing little black armbands. Those are follow me marks. It's there so that the little baby eland can follow close behind their parents. It's a good way to make sure those little ones stay close by the adults, because eland don't really camouflage too well. They don't really run too fast. They're a little too big. So they rely on their size and their strength to protect themselves from danger, and they want to make sure those little ones stay close behind those adults, who are going to be the ones who have all the size and the strength. We've also got some sable antelope right next to the tram here. Dark brown adults and light brown little babies. The youngsters have that lighter brown color, again, to help them blend in a little bit, just like some of these other species do. And as they get older, they get a little bit bigger and stronger. They grow those long, curved horns you can see on the adults there. And they're going to get a little bit darker as they get a little bit bigger and a little bit better able to take care of themselves. Way up on top of that hill, all the way back by the wall, we have some springbok, tiny little antelope way up there, kind of like the gazelles. They are very, very close relative of the gazelle. You can see they have that same black stripe down the middle that we saw back at the beginning of the tour with those Thompson's gazelles. We'll come around the other side a little bit later and get a closer look at those tiny springbok way up there. But in the meantime, here a little closer to us, we're going to have some giraffes in just a minute, way up ahead on the left-hand side. So we'll drive up alongside those giraffes and get a close look at them. 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 6 or 7 giraffes right up here. Oh, and before then, we also have some buffalo, also way across on the left-hand side, standing up on top of that hill. Now, those buffalo are really easy to see because they have that very dark brown fur, almost black. That makes it so they stand out against the green grass, makes it really easy for other animals to see them. Because those buffalo are big, they're strong, they weigh about 4 times as much as a lion, and those buffalo want to make sure everybody can see how big they are, so all those lions and leopards know to stay away from them. Alright, it's giraffe time. We have some Maasai giraffes on our left-hand side here. Check out those coats, check out those spots. Now, giraffe are all covered in spots, and believe it or not, that's going to be for camouflage. It's to help them hide, which, you know, even though they're really, really big, a giraffe actually is going to be able to hide pretty well when they're in their favorite place. And their favorite place is being under the shade of some tall trees. Now, of course, it's lots of food up there. They can eat those leaves. But trees are also a really good source of cover for a giraffe. When the sunlight goes in between the branches and the leaves, It makes a very spotted shadow on the ground with lots of little bits and spots and bits of sunlight coming through. And so the spots on a giraffe are meant to look just like the shadow on the ground underneath a big tall tree. That long neck kind of looks like a tree branch. Those long legs do too. Before you know it, those giraffe are actually going to be able to hide in plain sight when they're hanging out under those trees, which they're not doing right now, but just imagine they're under some trees. We passed a bunch of trees back there a minute ago. That's usually where those giraffe are going to show off that ability to hide. We also have some Hemsbok antelope on the left-hand side. They're going to be from the desert, the Kalahari, down in southern Africa, living out in the desert. They have that very light, sandy color to their fur. It's going to help them blend right in. You can see a few of them doing that right now, standing or laying down on the sand, helping them disappear. Now, if they were standing a little further back on the green grass, they would stand right out. It'd be really easy to see them. It's kind of how camouflage works. It's really good for hiding you, but it only works in certain places. So if you come from the desert and your fur is meant to look like the sand, if you go someplace without sand, like out in the grass, everyone's going to be able to see you. And same thing the other way around. If you come from a place with lots of grass and green colors and you're meant to blend in there, and you go out to the desert where it's all sand, everyone's going to see you. So, you know, camouflage is really effective, but you have to be in the right place for it to work. Got Dune the camel up on the right-hand side, up on top of that hill. Camels like Dune are really well adapted for the desert. They have that light brown fur, helping them stay hidden out there. Up next, over on the right, just under this stand of trees, we have the Somali wild asses. They have that silvery gray coat up on their back there. That helps them blend in with the dry, rocky, arid parts of northeastern Africa, like Somalia, for example. And they've also got those stripes on their legs. Now, those stripes on their legs are not really for hiding. They're follow-me marks, kind of like we saw with the eland. Those leg stripes are there so that all the other members of the herd can stay together. Kind of like if the whole family goes on vacation, everybody wears the same shirt sometimes. It helps to keep the group together, make sure you don't lose anybody, make sure nobody gets lost, nobody wanders away or can't find their way back. It's going to be the same with those stripes on these animals right here. So it's camouflage on top and communication down below for the Somali wild ass. Over on the left-hand side, we got some zebras. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there they go down the hill. Check out those stripes. Zebra stripes are kind of meant to look confusing to a predator. So you see those three right next to each other. The stripes kind of make them blur and blend together. Makes it hard to tell which one's which. Hard to see where one starts and another one ends. And it's much more confusing when you have a whole lot of zebras. So imagine there's 50 of them all together. Those stripes just make it look like one big striped shape. You can't tell where one zebra is. You can't separate one out from the group. That's going to confuse a lot of those predators like lions and leopards. It's going to give those zebras a good chance to escape. We got some rhinos on the left-hand side, some more rhinos. These are the black rhinos. Take a look at them. Now, the black rhinos, kind of like the white rhinos, they're both actually gray. The white rhino is not really white. The black rhino is not really black. They're both gray. So the best way to tell them apart is by looking at their faces. If you look closely at the faces on these two rhinos, a little hard to see when they're eating. The black rhinos right here have kind of a pointy face, kind of a skinny jaw, and a triangle shape to their mouth. But the white rhinos we saw back at the beginning, they have a big square face, a big square mouth, kind of like a brick, or maybe like a vacuum or a lawnmower. Two of those are very good examples if you've ever seen a white rhino eat. So the white rhino eats grass. They have a big wide mouth to eat lots and lots of grass. These black rhinos right down here, they're mostly going to eat leaves. So they reach up into the trees and the bushes to grab some branches and leaves to eat. So they have that smaller head and more pointed mouth. They can kind of reach around a little bit better and get up high to get some of that other food source. Of course, both the white rhino and the black rhino, kind of like those buffalo, they're going to stand out against that green grass. Whether you're light gray or dark gray, that's a color that you're going to notice standing out there on the grass. Because again, those rhinos are so big, about 4,000 pounds for the black rhino, that's about 1,800 kilos, and about 5,000 pounds for the white rhino, that's about 2,300 kilos. So, you know, they're way too big for any predator to be able to mess with, so they just want to show off their presence and say, look at me, I'm really big, stay away from my babies. Just like the buffalo do, those rhinos want to be noticed by those other animals. They want to make sure everyone can see them coming. Over on the right-hand side, we've got a few pelicans on the island right here. Sometimes they're gray, sometimes they're white, depending on the species, but whether they are white or gray, those pelicans are going to have light colors to kind of help them stay safe. Now, most of the threats and dangers a pelican's going to be worried about are going to be down below the surface of the water. Your sharks, your crocodiles, your Loch Ness Monster, they're going to be down there looking up. So those birds, they want to blend in against the sky, against the clouds, against the sunshine, helping to keep them hidden from anything looking up under the surface. Now, there's nothing dangerous under the surface of this water right here. It's just full of fish. But it is something those pelicans might have to worry about if they were living out in the world. All right, on our left-hand side here, we got some antelope. These are the roan antelope, the light brown with the black and white faces. Now, those black and white faces, they're really good communication tools. These antelope are going to do most of their communicating with their body language, standing up tall, crouching down low, tipping their head one way or the other to kind of show off those horns. It's like two of those guys are shoving each other a little bit. That's all going to say different things to each other, kind of like I'm happy, I'm angry, I'm friendly. Or they can say they're dominant or submissive or all kinds of stuff with their body language. So those marks on their faces just make it a little easier to see what position they're putting on, which way they're standing. Kind of like somebody directing traffic using those big orange batons, or maybe somebody directing an orchestra wearing white gloves, a catcher in baseball painting their fingers so they can show signs to the pitcher. It's all about showing off the right motions. So those little masks on their face kind of act like a little beacon. Are those two done shoving? It is a little bit funny when one of them lays down and then the other one starts kind of pushing them with the horns. Usually you picture them doing it standing up, but sometimes, you know, these are still young antelope. You can see that one right there hasn't even grown all of his markings yet on his face, that little guy. These are all adolescents. They're kind of like teenagers. So, you know, it still has an element of play to it when they push and shove each other. They're not really trying to establish any kind of dominance quite yet. They're just kind of rehearsing the same behavior they would use as adults. Sorry, that was a little off topic. All right. See, we got the zebras coming up one more time here. At least one of them. Two. We'll come ahead here, see if we can get a better look at these guys. This is our bachelor herd of a Grevy's zebra, so it's 5 boys. We do have a herd of female zebras out here at the park too. We'll see a little bit later if we can get sight of them. Their habitat's a little bit further back from the path, so it's a little harder to see them. They actually live like that out in the wild sometimes too, herds that are just males or just females. They meet up with each other sometimes, like during the breeding season, but for a good part of the year they might live separately just like they do here at the park. Alright, one last look at our Grevy's zebras right here.
18 minutes.
Look, I see some of those buffalo up ahead. We should get a much closer look at them in just a minute when we come around the corner. But in the meantime, if you guys lift your eyes up a little higher above that savanna, you can see a lot of the local environment down here in Escondido on the right side and the left side. A lot of those rocky hillsides, a lot of kind of dry weather adapted plant life. It's usually pretty dry out here, although not today. It's going to be a habitat called the coastal sage scrub, and it's home to all kinds of different animals and wildlife. We saw some of those local birds already, a few North American pelicans, and we saw some ducks and some cormorants and a few other birds too. Lots of other animals make their homes out here. We get mule deer, we get California mule deer, there we go. We get roadrunners and coyotes and rabbits. We get burrowing owls and red-tailed hawks, all kinds of different species down here in the sage scrub. I'll talk more about that in a minute, though. We got those buffalo coming up, I think, right here. Yeah, here they are. So check them out. Check out that size. I mentioned being 4 times the size of a lion. That's going to be around 18 or 1900 pounds. That's about about 800 kilos, maybe a little bit more. It's about half the size of a rhino. So these buffalo very, very large and very formidable and fierce animals. Some of the toughest animals out there on the savannah. See a couple of those youngsters in there. They're getting a little bit bigger. You can see a few of them about half size. Those calves there, or slightly grown up calves. And those little guys, those are the reason why those adults have to look so tough. They want to protect those youngsters, keep them safe from any of those threats and dangers. And adult buffalo is actually pretty capable of taking care of themselves. An adult buffalo can definitely take on a lion, chase them away, send them to bed without their dinner. Again, that's why they want to show off that size. Taking a quick look around that sage scrub all around us, that native habitat down here. Even though it's home to all kinds of wildlife and biodiversity, it's actually an endangered habitat. Only covers maybe 10% of the space that it used to cover. Loses ground all the time to human encroachment of various different kinds, like habitat being kind of torn down or bulldozed and things, or freeways and parking lots and different stuff like that. Only covers maybe 10% of the space that it used to cover, the sage scrub. But a good way to look out for that habitat, something simple like planting local plants in your garden, keeping those local plants around, keeping them healthy and thriving is a good way to kind of help that ecosystem as a whole. Okay, back to Africa. We got some springbok coming up here. We saw them off in the distance a little bit earlier, and we saw their very close cousins, the Thompson's gazelles, back at the beginning of the tour. You can see they're about the same size. They have about the same kind of color to them, that same stripe down the middle. What actually makes these springbok different from the gazelles is something we can't really see from here since they're not really using it. They have something called a marsupium. It's like a little white flag, a little flap of skin on their backside that they can use to signal danger. They jump way up in the air, they wave that white flag off their rear end, and that kind of signals to the rest of the herd that there's a lion or a cheetah or something coming and they all have to get up and run away. We don't really get to see it all that often here at the park because there's not much danger in there. The predators live in a separate place, so they're all going to be pretty much safe all the time. So we don't really ever see that signal here. They have a pretty safe life. But every once in a while, maybe there's a loud noise or a vehicle backfires or something, and you do get to see that alarm. But that's going to be what makes them different from the gazelles, that little flag they can extend on the back, that signal. All right, we have some Ellipsan waterbuck coming up next, these shaggy brown antelope. They got that white circle on their backside there. That's another follow me mark, just like we're seeing with some of the other animals. Theirs is a little bit easier to see. Looks like a great big target right there, but it does the same purpose. It keeps that herd together, makes sure nobody gets lost. They've got actually the tendency to kind of walk single file, each antelope with their eyes on the back of the antelope in front. They're not doing it right now since they're staying put in this place, but when they do move from place to place, they're often going to go in a straight line. Over on the right-hand side, under that shade, we got some Ankole cattle. Big, wide horns, kind of like Texas Longhorns, about 6 feet from tip to tip, not quite 2 meters, but close. Those horns are not the result of natural selection, but human selection. The people who breed those cattle, they select them for bigger and bigger horns, kind of hoping to make them a little bit more valuable as trade goods or as gifts or kind of as status items. Can give a little bit of status to a person or a group for having the cattle with the biggest, longest, and widest horns. We talked a little bit about native animals and native wildlife out there on the tour. This is actually the section where usually they start to come out. You get a lot of bushes and trees and a lot of grass kind of packed tightly on both sides of the tram. This is usually where I keep a lookout for like deer and roadrunners and some of those other native species. There's a crow. Of course, now that I said here comes the deer, they're probably not going to come out. They usually, I think they listen to my tour and they wait to see if I'm talking about them or not. I'm kidding. They're wild animals though, so they kind of do whatever they want to. Sometimes they're out, sometimes they're not. They don't even technically live here officially. They like it here at the park. We got all these plants around. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Oh, hey, there is a deer. So down on our left-hand side there, oh, there's 2 of them. Sitting right there under that tree. Oh, there's like 10 of them. Never mind. There's way more than 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at least. A couple of little ones, little fawns down there. Those are some of those mule deer, some native animals out here in this part of Escondido. They just live in the hills all around us. Sometimes they stop by to visit here at the park. And they actually did come out even though I talked about them. That's really cool. Usually they only come out when I don't mention them. So I don't want to leave them off of the appearances talk. They have that light brown coat. We've seen that on lots and lots of animals today. Light brown's actually a very, very good color for blending in out in the wild. Lots of dirt, lots of plants that are kind of dry. Any kind of dry or dead plant matter gets that brown color to it too. Tree stumps, wood, lots and lots of things out there in nature, whether you're here in the coastal sage scrub area in Escondido or out in the savannah in Africa. Light brown's a very, very popular color because it's a very, very good way to camouflage. And we've also got the rhinos out here on the left-hand side, the southern white rhinos here at the RRC. Looks like they're facing away from us, so maybe not a good opportunity to look for that big square mouth to kind of try to compare them to the black rhino. But if you do get a look at those faces, very big, very square, very big, heavy head on the white rhino. They actually can't lift their head very high. They can't lift it past like their shoulders, whereas the black rhino can get way, way up high. It can kind of reach that head up and grab some food. All told, I think 10 southern white rhinos going to make their homes here at the Rhino Rescue Center. 6 adult females, 1 adult male, and 3 juveniles, or like sub-adults. I don't know if I'd call them juveniles. They're still not full grown, but they're pretty big. Really hard to tell they're not adults unless you have one of the adults right next to them. Alright, coming back around toward the front section here. We're not done with the tour yet or anything, but I did want to thank you guys for coming out to the park. Thanks for riding the Africa Tram. Whenever you come down to the safari park, oh, we got more deer. Oh, right down there is cool. Check them out for a second, but I can't hang for too long with the gate open or it'll shut on us. Awesome. Always like to check out that native wildlife. Always fun to see them. Speaking of native wildlife, some of those local birds starting to circle around up ahead. Just past these flamingos on the left-hand side, we got usually a whole ton of local birds here. We got some gulls, we got some ducks, we have some, are there any no, I don't see any cormorants, but we have a few pelicans, some snowy egrets, which are skinny white feathered birds. We have some ibises usually. Yeah, there's a couple of ibises. They're round-bellied with a very long skinny neck and a long skinny beak. Yeah, a couple of them in the street. Oh, there's one pecking around down there. Looking over on the right side, who we got coming up? Looks like the gazelles moved on. I see some giraffes, though. Let's go check out those giraffes. Now, there should be a little baby giraffe out here with the rest of the... Oh, yep, there she is, way, way down there by that truck. I'll pull ahead a little bit. We can check out that baby giraffe at the end of our tour. That'll be fun to see. So I say little and baby, but a newborn giraffe is going to be about 6 feet tall. That's not quite 2 meters, but pretty close. This giraffe, this little one up here we're about to see, was born on the 5th day of this month, so she's a little more than 2 weeks old. Standing right there next to her mom. Yeah, she's just starting to turn around to face us. We'll see her in a second. Now, if you look at how tall these adult giraffes are, there are those gazelles, by the way. They moved up here by the giraffes. If you look at how tall these adult giraffes are, actually you'll see right now why that little baby has to be so tall. It's for this purpose right here. She has to be tall enough to reach her mom, because baby giraffes do all their nursing when they're standing up. A little baby giraffe like this can walk within about an hour of being born, so they're going to do pretty much everything standing up.
I'm recording though.
And of course, they're going to grow pretty fast as well. They start off very tall and they grow up very fast. The giraffe uses their height for all kinds of things to help them, of course, get their food. They reach up into the trees when they're adults, and of course, they have to reach up to drink their mom's milk when they're a baby. And they're also going to use their height to help them spot danger coming. They have very, very good eyesight. I'm going to keep going around the corner in case anyone in the back didn't get a good chance to see that baby. They use their height and their very good eyesight to see danger coming from far away. So a taller giraffe has access to more food, and a taller giraffe is better able to see danger coming. So the faster that little one grows, the better off she's going to be. That's out in the wild, of course. Here at the safari park, it's not that dangerous and they have plenty to eat. But of course, you know, their body doesn't know that. It's still going to grow because out in the wild, that's what helps them survive the best. Alright, so we're coming back around toward the tram station. Thanks everybody for visiting today. Whenever you come down to the park or the San Diego Zoo, you're helping us create a world where all life thrives. The San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance is a non-profit organization, so all the revenue from tickets and stuff goes right toward conservation, right toward helping out that wildlife, both here at the park and all across the world. We support lots and lots of conservation efforts all around the globe, and you guys support us. So thanks so much for being allies for wildlife and helping us create a world where all that life can thrive. Once we come to a full stop, you're going to be able to exit on the right-hand side, that is the station side of the tram, by reaching over those doors, undoing those latches, and making your way back out into the station and into the park. My name is Alex. I've been your driver and tour guide this afternoon. If you had any questions about the wildlife we saw out there, feel free to ask me or my co-workers back at the station. If anyone needs any assistance getting off the tram, just raise your hand or wave to one of us down here, and we'll come by and help you out. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. Stay dry.